Real quick before we get into today's show, guys, I keep forgetting to announce this. I apologize. The winner of the Kareem Hunt autographed jersey, I've actually already informed him. It is Brady Schweitzer. I appreciate the support, man, and all the comments and below. He literally commented on every video that month, which gave him the most chances to win. So, you guys want that T.Y. Hilton jersey? Leave comments below. I appreciate it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Clock Management. I'm your host, Justin, and as always, I'm joined by Perry.
Justin, do you have a map?
I don't think so.
Shoot, I just got lost in your eyes.
They are beautiful. I know.
Ooh, man, that wasn't one of my best, but I really had fun with that.
Yeah, it landed. It landed well. It is the 14th of May. We're in the middle of May, so we decided, to go over some dynasty players, some rookie players coming out of college into the pros, and talk about their landing spots and where we think you guys should get them.
Yeah, we had two awesome guests on. We had Jordan Love from Rumboys Network. And then we had Samuel Wallace, who's actually been a guest on the show before, way back when we first started, almost a year ago.
Yeah, not had, Perry. We have. They're coming on right after this for our viewing audiences. Time.
Okay, well, I am living in the real world where we just recorded that part, and now we're recording this part, Justin. Fight me.
I will in the virtual world.
Tron.
So you're telling me I know Kung Fu?
Oh boy. If you get that reference, please leave a comment below and also subscribe. Thank you.
And you're welcome.
All right. Yeah. So in this episode, we're going to cover 10 rookie running backs, 10 rookie wide receivers. We got two guests, like I said. They are very well versed in the rookies that are coming into the league. They play a lot of dynasty, a lot of great information. So I really think you guys are going to enjoy it. Before we get into that, though, Justin, where can everybody find us? What other information do people need to know?
You guys can find us on YouTube, obviously, because you're here looking at our beautiful faces. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We have all sorts of social media. We got Facebook, Twitter, which is right at the top there. We also have Instagram, also at the top there. Go follow us on there. Ask us questions on there. Just enjoy the cool pictures I post if it's Instagram. But just, feel free to interact with us. We enjoy interacting with you guys. So hit us up. We will not be covering any news no one cares about this week because we have so much to get into here, guys. So we'll make it up to you next week and cover everything we missed.
All right. Enjoy.
Let's get to it. Whoa, real quick, before we get into the show, this show is sponsored by Ladder. Remember, you can be better every day with Ladder. And if you go to their website and use the promo code BETTEREVERYDAY, all one word, you could get 30% off anything on their website. So that's pretty incredible. In case you guys don't know what Ladder is by now, you should if you've been watching the show. They're a great sponsor and an amazing company that LeBron James, Arnold Schwarzenegger came together and decided to make a clean supplement. And they got the best scientists in the world to create this supplement. And then just to go that extra mile, they get third-party testing to make sure they're clean so you get better quality products whenever you buy from Ladder. I personally use them. I also am in the military, and the people at my work like to work out. So I've been giving out some of this stuff to people at my work, and they all love it. They're all buying stuff from Ladder now, using that promo code Better Every Day to get 30% off. And I suggest you guys do too. I mean, it's awesome. They got hydration products, they got proteins, pre-workouts, whatever you need. And I mean, a big thing for me is like the taste of this stuff. Like some of these things, like from other people who make them, other companies, like just taste like chalk or horrible. Like no, you can't. It's a challenge to drink these things. Theirs actually tastes good, so you get to be healthier and enjoy the flavor of the thing, which is rare. So make sure you guys check it out. I appreciate Ladder for sponsoring the show. And Ladder's goal is to help you unlock your best in any situation. Just make sure you guys check them out. I appreciate it. Big shout out to Ladder. Let's get into some rookies. Bam. Welcome, everybody. We'll be covering our 2020 rookie class right here and their landing spots. Now that we know where they're at, we can start predicting some fantasy output for these guys. So, I mean, obviously, there's some surprises that happen during the draft that's going to really dictate, their fantasy output. So we're just going to go through. We got a list of, I believe, 10 running backs, 10 wide receivers, and each one of us are going to kind of give you a take on these guys. And just like how we think that they're going to do for fantasy purposes. So,
yeah, situation matters, but there's going to be a lot of talented guys that didn't land in the best situation, and there's a lot of guys that probably aren't as talented that landed in really good situations. So,
and me and Perry love us some fantasy football. We do a lot of redraft, but we decided for this episode we're going to get some help and bring in some dynasty experts here. And some rookie experts. So we got J Love from Rumboys, and we got Samuel Wallace. J Love, you want to let them know where they could find your articles?
Yeah, rumboys.com. I'm on there. Me and Miles are the head chief editors over there. And then Rumboys J Love on Twitter.
And Sam?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. You can find me in all of my work over at RotoViz, is where I write for, at @swallace_FF.
And Sam, I just want to make sure you got a good chair for today's episode.
I do. I have actually upgraded. The timing was good. I'm just like maybe a couple of weeks into this new chair. So by the time we got this next podcast around, that chair is long gone.
That was amazing. If you guys missed it the first time Sam was on, his chair literally broke during the podcast, and mid-podcast. I think you were like mid-sentence and just kept on going.
Yeah.
A true professional.
I really appreciated your dedication.
Yeah.
I think the best part about it watching back was like my head going from like right here to like you could just see like my forehead on screen after the fact. I just kept right on going with it.
Yeah. It was great. Right. Okay, well, we got 20 players to get through, so let's just jump right into it. First on the list.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, first on the list, obviously. We were talking about this a little bit before the show. Only running back taken in the first round, lands with arguably, the best offense in football right now, probably the most prolific scoring offense. They can flip a field in 2 or 3 plays. There's really not a whole lot, I feel like, that we could say about Clyde Edwards-Helaire that hasn't been just kind of beaten to death already in the few weeks after the draft. He went from being, I think a highly touted running back anyways, but I really didn't see him anywhere mocked before the real NFL draft in anyone's top handful of running backs. But obviously the draft capital, the landing spot, how well he played throughout the collegiate season into the national championship game, things like that. Like I said, there's really not much more you can say. He's now kind of, I don't want to say the consensus 101, but it's like him and Jonathan Taylor are everyone's 101 or 102 in single quarterback leagues. And I've kind of seen a tier develop now in super flex drafts where it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Burrow, and Tua in any order. I've seen those guys go in any order in Superflex drafts. I think he's in a great spot. I've never really been a big Damian Williams believer anyways. I think he's been good. He's been serviceable. He probably could have or should have been the Super Bowl MVP, depending on who you ask. He played well. But I just think CEH is just a better talent. He's a better pass catcher. He's younger, first-round draft capital. There's just not much not to like with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely do not like Williams, but I did think he deserved to be the Super Bowl MVP in that game.
Yeah, I think Damian Williams is a key component to that team winning football games. But when it comes to fantasy, I was saying it all last year. I didn't want him at all. He was ranked so high in most drafts, and it was just I do like CEH a lot. as long as that workload, he gets the bulk of the workload, which I think by the end of the season he will be getting the bulk of the workload.
Yeah. Jordan, you want to talk about some Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor coming out, he's just a power back, and he's in a crowded backfield going to Indianapolis with Marlon Mack and Naheem Hines. He's going to get these goal line reps, short yardage. He's just going to grind in between the tackles. That's what he's going to do. Not the best pass catcher, which limits him in a PPR standard situation. I would consider PPR standard now. Nobody really ever plays standard. So I mean, he's not really going to get too many catches out of the backfield, which limits him a lot.
Yeah, Mack definitely showed that he has no problem with, and Hines. I mean, they can both catch the ball, I think. So I think they'll both get the majority of that work. I just want to see if he can pass block in the NFL, because I think that for a rookie running back, that's huge on whether you're on the field or not.
Yeah.
And just to note, he's not good at that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I want to see how he develops.
That was a big issue with him in college. He could not pass block at all, and he couldn't catch. So him on third down was basically non-existent.
Yeah, I see a lot of like Leonard Fournette early Leonard Fournette and Jonathan Taylor. Leonard Fournette has shown, especially in 2019, that now he can catch the ball. He added that into his game, and it helped a lot for fantasy production. It made him really viable last season, even though he's on an anemic offense. Couldn't get that word out. But I think he's going to have to learn how to catch the ball out of the backfield in order to be really fantasy relevant. And the landing spot, I really don't love the landing spot for Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. So next guy on the list is DeAndre Swift. So I'll be talking about DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. He's currently the 26th consensus ranked running back for fantasy. Still really early on, still a lot of stuff to fall before we know for sure. But I see his play style as somewhat similar to Marshawn Lynch in the fact that he doesn't want to go down. He's very, very elusive. The spin move is incredible. I was watching highlights from when he was at Georgia. The spin move is like, it's so funny to watch it work because it looks like it's slow, but everybody just falls off of him. I really like the landing spot for Swift. I know everybody's worried about Kerryon Johnson. I'm really not worried about Kerryon Johnson all that much. I think that his inability to stay on the field, it's too long of a track record now that he can't be the workhorse running back because he always gets injured. And I don't think Detroit is willing to bank on that anymore, which is why they went and picked up DeAndre Swift. I do think that Swift could end up being the workhorse running back by the end of the season, especially if Kerryon Johnson gets hurt again, which if I were a betting man, I would bet that Kerryon Johnson will not play every game this season. So I actually like Swift more than Jonathan Taylor this season when it comes to rookie running backs.
Yeah, I agree with you at that.
100%.
Better landing spot.
Yeah.
The fourth guy, I actually really like this guy, J.K. Dobbins. Like, I think that he has a incredible landing spot, especially for dynasty rankings, because like he's coming in with an also like a really young quarterback, similar to, CEH, that he is going to spend a long time in this system with this guy developing in an offense that has just been on fire lately since they've gotten their quarterback. So I think, some of these other teams like the Lions and the Colts, it's kind of a question mark going in the next couple of years who their quarterback's going to be for that offense. So I think he's landed in an incredible spot for him that actually has pushed him up my rankings. And he's also behind Mark Ingram, who's on the wrong side of 30. So he's going to be taking that job sooner than later and be their 3-down back. And I do think he's capable of filling that role. And I'm not so worried about, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill taking this job from him. I think he's the guy that they're planning their future with. So I really like him going forward.
Yeah, I think the landing spot for Dobbins couldn't have been better. He's pretty much going to run the same offense in the NFL that he did in college.
Yeah.
And there's very little pressure on him. I mean, right? Clearly, he doesn't need to be the guy walking on the field week 1. So he's going to get a lot of time behind the other running backs there. And it's such a good running offense that when he does get that work, I really think that he's going to perform well.
Yeah, and I think you guys are touching on a lot of good things too that, any of the top running backs we've talked about already. And I think I love the landing spot for Jonathan Taylor more than you guys do just because of the offensive line. I think he's a
That's
better
true.
receiver than people give him credit for. The offense in Wisconsin doesn't use the running backs in the pass catching game at all. I mean, you look at how successful James White and Melvin Gordon have been in the NFL as receiving backs. I think he's got that built into his game and can obviously improve upon that and should. But Marlon Mack's also on the last year of his rookie deal. And those rookie deals are just money right now for teams to cycle through. And it's too bad because Marlon Mack's been productive. But, kind of going back to that, I think the biggest thing for a lot of these backs is going to be just staying patient because Jonathan Taylor may not get a lot of the work this year. I mean, if Kerryon Johnson finds himself to be healthy and the Lions want to maybe stick with him a little bit more, Swift may not get the work. Dobbins may not get the work this year. I mean, we're going to draft these guys all within the first couple of picks, but we're going to have to stay patient with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think especially with running backs, I talked to Perry on the phone earlier today about this, like the value of the running backs. Like I like running backs more than wide receivers in rookie drafts because when they're picked in the second round, these coaches aren't giving up on these players. Like they're going to get their chance. They're going to get a chance to get out there, get on the field and show what they got. And the more so than wide receivers, you'll see wide receivers bust a lot more than top running backs.
Yeah, your rate of return on rookie running backs is way higher than rookie wide receivers for sure.
Yeah.
Who do we got? Sam, you want to talk about Cam Akers?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been kind of an enigma for me since the draft. We all know how bad his offensive line situation was in college. That's something that everyone's talked about and used either kind of as a crutch in defense of him or to say, could he do better, have done better with a different situation? But, at least how the Rams offensive line ranked last year was near the bottom of the league, and they really didn't improve that situation at all. And he's stepping into a backfield that has an older Malcolm Brown. I'm not as worried about him, but I'm really curious to see what the Rams do with Darrell Henderson this year because, and I've kind of looked at this a couple of ways. I would be more impressed, I think, if the Rams say, look, we tried Darrell Henderson. He didn't work. We're going to own that. We drafted another guy who we think is better, and we're going to roll with him. Or if they say, we spent decent capital on him. We still think he's talented. He played well in college. We're going to try to use both of them. And that kind of falls into my last point where I said, if you really believe Cam Akers is as talented as he is and you like the situation and you really believe that the Rams will use the running back position in the passing game like they really didn't last year, but they did a lot the year prior, then yeah, Akers is going to be a great value. And as I was putting together some of my notes for these guys, I was looking back right after the draft. Some of the top writers and rankers at RotoViz did a 12-team Superflex rookie mock and just kind of dropped some of these guys into certain spots. Akers went 108 in a 12-team Superflex rookie mock. He was the 5th running back taken. So he went behind the 4 running backs we've already talked about. He went behind Burrow and Tua, and then he went behind Lamb as well. So he went 8th overall. And that's kind of, where I've seen him. I really haven't seen him much higher than that, but I really probably wouldn't. But if the Rams come out and say, hey, this is our guy, he's going to be the guy to get the start and to get the work, then for sure. But it's hard because their situation really isn't much better from an offensive line perspective than it was for him in college.
Yeah.
I mean, to add on to that, if you want to look at the division they play in, the Cardinals defense got a lot better when you want to look at Isaiah Simmons, Chandler Jones. And then, of course, we all know about the San Francisco 49ers, and the Seahawks defense is still no slouch when it comes to stopping the run. Mm-hmm. So there's 6 games out of their schedule already where you're going to be looking at low games. Their offensive line probably got worse because they didn't add to it. Andrew Whitworth only is getting older, who is their best offensive lineman. So it's not that great, but to contradict that, Cam Akers is a home run hitter. That's what he is. Right. He'll turn what you would think into a 5-yard gain into a 20-yard gain. But that's a little bit more rare than what you're going to see with consistency, and that's my issue with him.
Yeah, and I think he's going to need to get work, though, in order to do that. If they are splitting the carries between him and multiple other running backs, you're going to, it's going to be harder for him to do that because he's not going to do it every play.
Right. Yeah, and to kind of tack on to what you were saying, Sam, that they need to commit to him being the guy. I don't think they're willing to do that. I don't think there's they don't gain anything in doing that. A lot of teams in the NFL, we all know, there's more success when you do running back by committee, unless you have somebody like Saquon or Christian McCaffrey, right? And I don't think any of us are saying that Cam Akers is at that level of talent. So
Yeah, and you brought that up earlier. I forget exactly the topic, but we say what's a good football move isn't always a good fantasy move, and that's super frustrating for us as fans of just the game. When we like a certain team and we say, "Hey, that's awesome! Like, great! Let's cycle this guy in and out, keep fresh legs in there, limit the touches." But then you flip it around, and as fantasy players, we hate it because it's like, "No, why are you taking my guy out when we get close? I don't care if he's run the ball 5 out of the last 6 plays. Like, keep him in there."
That's why I try not to draft any fantasy players on my favorite team.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because they are the king of running back by committee, the 49ers.
Let's move on here. Jordan, next one's to you.
Yeah, here we have Keyshawn Vaughn going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, kind of in a sense being that thunder and lightning with Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones being a little bit better of a pass catcher. Not saying that Keyshawn Vaughn can't. He was actually very, very good at that in college. He had the second highest catch percentage out of his team's catches in all of college football last year, only behind Cam Akers. Going on, basically, I'm going to compare him to Devin Singletary, a guy who we don't know if he's going to get the full load going into his rookie year, drafted in that 3rd round, who can both catch and run. He can do everything, just needs that opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's really going to be, we just got to figure out how Tom Brady's going to use him. And I think, a lot of people want to try and compare these guys to the running backs that Tom Brady's had in the past. I don't really see how they fit into any of the roles that they successfully used in the past with these two guys. I think they're both very similar, whereas in the past, Tom Brady's had his goal line / 3rd down guy and his 1st and 2nd down guys. So I'm not that high on Vaughn, to be completely honest with you. I probably won't have him on a whole lot of my teams unless it's deep on a bench.
I mean, I'm okay with them. I like, just because of the running backs there, I think there's a chance that he could end the year as their starting running back. Because I don't like the other running backs they have on that team. So I think he's I like him as like taking a shot at him like later in it. But some of the other running backs I think are much worse, have a much worse chance of starting by the end of the season. So.
Okay, Justin, you're up next.
Oh man, I feel like a jerk for taking this one from you, Sam.
No, please do. I've washed my hands of that draft.
So I got AJ Dillon to the Packers. So I mean, he's a big boy. He's a big running back. Almost 250 pounds.
He's quick too.
Yeah. He killed the combine, like especially for his size, which, I mean, we all know that's what decides whether you're a rock star in the NFL is your combine scores, right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, John Ross. So yeah, obviously, I mean, he did great in the combine. That's awesome. I'm happy for him. Doesn't really mean too much, especially because he went to the Packers, where he's buried behind 2 good running backs. The Packers were actually bragging about how they had the best running back core running back duo in the NFL last season, and then they decided to draft a running back to show us how much faith they had in that.
But what about receivers, though?
Yeah.
Who needs receivers, man?
Yeah, what are those?
This guy's huge. He could. Oh, but he's also not good at a great pass catching back. Good point. So
they've got 2 quarterbacks. So
yeah.
You got 2 quarterbacks.
I'm sorry, Sam.
Backs,
I'm sorry, Sam. We're hating on the Packers here a lot, but
no, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, they brought it on themselves.
Yeah, I'm trying my best to remain optimistic. I'd like to think that people in charge of these things know more than the average fan does. So we'll see.
Especially with that Le'Veon Bell jersey hanging behind you, being an optimistic.
That's true. That's true. Hey, it's a sweet jersey, man. I can't complain about it.
But yeah, so I'm not super optimistic about Dillon's fantasy relevance in the next year at least. Aaron Jones, I believe, is at the end of this last year of his contract. And so they may move on from him next year. Maybe that's their plan. But So AJ Dillon, that's a deeper handcuff move in a draft, in my opinion, for fantasy. Like, I'm probably just not grabbing him. Honestly, I'm probably grabbing another position, or another one of the running backs we've either already spoken about, or even some of the ones that are still coming up.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I would have to check on Jones's contract. I think you're right. I think next year is the last year
It's
of
up
the
after
one.
this year.
Yeah,
What's that?
after
It is.
this year.
It is the last year.
Yeah, and I read an article shortly after the draft, and I forget exactly where it came from, but they kind of alluded to your point, Justin, where they said, are the Packers kind of building in the fact that, hey, what if Jones has another awesome, efficient year and puts up, 12, 15 touchdowns, does really well on limited work, and, he is then demanding a contract that the Packers are not willing to pay him. And they say, okay, that's fine. Thanks for your help the last couple of years. We've got another big-bodied back. We'll still have Jamal Williams as our complimentary receiver back or something like that. So it's interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how this year plays out and what they do moving forward.
Actually, to add to that, this is both Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones's contract year. So both of them are coming off after this year.
Jamal Williams.
That's gonna be fun.
I was gonna say Jamal Williams can be a lot cheaper though than Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I fully anticipate them bringing back Williams, especially because they can use him as a pass catching back here with Dillon if they need to.
Right.
Okay, so we'll move on here. I've got the next guy. That's Zack Moss. Went to Buffalo Bills. Zack, I think a lot of people are really hyped about Zack Moss because they're predicting him as like kind of this goal line guy, maybe third down. The one thing that I'm concerned about with Zack Moss being a goal line running back is the fact that his quarterback is Josh Allen, who had 8 rushing touchdowns in 2018. He had 9 rushing touchdowns last season. I don't foresee those numbers going down too much. I do think there'll be some regression. I think Stephon Diggs being there is probably going to allow Josh Allen to throw more touchdowns than he has than his first 2 seasons. But I do think that Josh Allen, when he gets close to that goal line, he is willing to pull it down and run it in. And it's going to be a little bit of the similar thing with Cam Newton, where we were really frustrated when Cam Newton kept, vulturing touchdowns from our running backs, right? So
not if you're the Cam Newton owner.
Right. I think it's really hard to predict touchdowns. It's the hardest thing to predict in fantasy football. And I think that if Zack Moss is going to rely on getting touchdowns, which is what we kind of think is going to happen, it's going to be really hard to predict success with him. So Devin Singletary is still there. I don't think Devin Singletary showed us anything last season that would lead us to believe that they don't want to continue to give him more work. But I also don't think he showed us anything that would lead us to believe that they want to give him all the work, right? He hasn't been amazing. I think he's really talented. I believe in him, but it's more of like just kind of what I've seen in the past in small doses. So Zack Moss, he could end up being like LeGarrette Blount light when he was on the Patriots, where he just gets tons of touchdowns and we don't know why. Or he could just kind of be another guy in that backfield. So, all right, I must have summed it up perfectly.
I mean, the only thing that I could personally add is even to vulture a couple more of those touchdowns. I really like Dawson Knox as a tight end to be a red zone threat. Big 6'5" athletic tight end, really underrated guy. Came on especially in the playoffs last year in that one playoff game. He kind of in a way developed as a safety net for Josh Allen when he was on the field, and I could see him grabbing a few more touchdowns than people expect.
Yeah,
Perry, I was going to add, we're getting to the point now of running backs where if I don't land one of the top couple running backs, I'm just taking wide receivers through like the rest of the whole second round. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah, no kidding. And Justin mentioned handcuff with the last guy we talked about. I don't even think Zack Moss is like a legitimate handcuff to Devin Singletary. I just don't. I don't think Devin Singletary is. I don't know. It's hard to put into words here.
You know what's funny about this though? Both of these guys are built like bowling balls. They're both like 5'8", 5'9", very heavy for a running back. It's just funny how that's kind of like the style of running back. Even Frank Gore fits that style of running back they had.
Yeah, and they finally unhandcuffed Frank Gore from there. So,
all right, let's move on here. Sam, you're up.
Yeah, Darrington Evans. He was third. He's a third-round running back going to the Titans. He was the ninth running back taken out of this class. I think his situation is really interesting. We talk about maybe good players that landed in bad spots or bad players that landed in okay spots. And I think we have to continuously remind ourselves every year as a fantasy community that don't let landing spot be the determining factor in how well you value a player. Like if you've done your research on a player, and I don't do nearly the amount of research on incoming players as a lot of Debbie guys do, a lot of rookie guys do, things like that. I mean, I pay attention, obviously, being a dynasty player, but if you've done all of your work and you're past the combine and you kind of have your guy locked into your ranking, I don't think the landing spot should totally drastically change that, unless it's something like Clyde Edwards-Helaire going to the Chiefs, where it's kind of out of the blue, so to speak. But for Evans, he's the running back two on a run first team right now, which I think is a unique spot that it puts him in. Coming from a smaller school, he racked up over 2,800 yards and 25 touchdowns in college, averaged over 6 yards, or averaged right at 6 yards a carry, was adept at a receiving back. He had 39 career receptions. It's going to be really interesting to see if the Titans are willing to pay Derrick Henry after this year, because he is an unrestricted free agent after this coming year. They released Dion Lewis this last year as well. So there's a role that I think Evans can fill. It's just going to be a matter of how much of that volume does he take on. I would love to see Derrick Henry be more of a pass catcher, because every once in a while he takes like that dump off 3 yards over the middle and then turns it 50 yards upfield because no one can or wants to try to tackle him, which is awesome. I mean, it's great. I think they should use him more in the screen game. They just don't. But so there's a role for him. I'm just curious to see exactly how the Titans integrate him into that offense.
Yeah, I think with Derrick Henry, like a lot of us want to believe that he's just going to get the ball like every time he's on the field. But we were talking earlier about what's good for an NFL team isn't always good for fantasy. I honestly think that what's good for an NFL team in this situation is to not give Derrick Henry the ball every single time he's on the field, right? He's going to get hurt. They are looking at a playoff run, which means they want Derrick Henry ready to go when they get to the playoffs towards the end of the season. That division is theirs for the taking for the first time in 20 years. So I do think that he is going to get quite a bit of work, actually. Now, quite a bit of work, I'm thinking maybe like 20% of the backfield carries, because Derrick Henry is still a monster and he's still healthy and he's still really good. Yeah. But he will be used. I fully expect that he will be used.
Right. Yeah, and so I think they're going to be passing the ball a little bit more than what a lot of people think they are. Like you're kind of saying, Perry, that they can't just hand the ball off every play. Because their offensive line did get a little bit worse this offseason. So I do expect them to be in a little bit more passing situations just in general than they were last season. And Sam just pointed out, as much as we would love to see them throw the ball, they just don't throw it to Derrick Henry for whatever reason. So we may see him a little bit more utilized during those situations.
They're just trying to give other teams a chance, dude. That's why they
don't want to cheat.
They got to refresh, so when they get to the playoffs, they only have to ask Tannehill to throw for like 70 yards,
and then they win.
Yeah.
So Garoppolo 2.0.
Yeah, exactly.
Manager system, it works. It works.
Yeah. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl that way.
That's true. Just to kind of tie up Evans here for a second, just kind of going back to in the mock draft that we had him in, he went, oh no, I'm looking at the wrong guy here, so never mind. I will have to circle back on that then. All right, go
ahead. Jordan, you're up.
Here we are with Michael P. Ryan. He went to the Jets. This is another one of those guys. He's going to be the third running back on the team. Le'Veon Bell got paid, so I expect him to get the full workload, and it's not like he can get traded with his massive contract. Nobody wants that. And they just signed Frank Gore, who somehow, someway always manages to get at least 30% of the carries on whatever team he's on. Yes. So I don't necessarily see Michael P. Ryan playing a big role, even though he's a power back. He's just not going to be a big role for the Jets. And not to mention Adam Gase is the head coach.
Yeah.
I mean,
good point on that last one. Excellent point on that last one.
That's probably the most important thing you said.
Right.
And I mean, Frank Gore's got that old man strength, and he's the oldest man, so he's got the most of it. So
That's science right there.
Yeah, you can't argue it.
So, yeah, it's. I think I heard. I forgot where I heard this, but I think so. I think it might have been on the Fantasy Footballers podcast or something that I was listening to. They said that like Frank Gore entered the league on like when Sam Darnold had like his 8th birthday or something like that. Like,
Yes. The same month as his 8th birthday.
That just blows my mind. Like he's literally everyone's dad on that team.
Yeah, and
if he makes it a few more years, his son will be in the league.
Yeah, his son's
awesome.
a freshman in college.
He's gonna be around. He's going to be.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to stop.
I just hope they're on the same team.
Like,
what position does the son play? Running back?
Yes.
He's like, get out there, son. I'll back you up.
No, he's gonna be the starter.
I'll show you how it's done. Hold my Metamucil.
Yeah, everyone else is getting Gatorade squeezed into their mouth. He's getting a boost. All right, let's get into some wide receivers.
All right. So just a disclaimer. I'm a huge Broncos fan. So I think that's why Justin gave me Jerry Jeudy. And thank you, Justin.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm really excited about Jerry Jeudy in Denver. And I am a Broncos fan, like I said, so take this all with a grain of salt. I'd love for you guys to temper my expectations here, but I think
let you go.
Okay. I think the landing spot was actually amazing for Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton's there. We all know that. I think Cortland Sutton's still the number 1 wide receiver there. Really excited about his future, but he was the only wide receiver on that team. It was like something like 50%. Like his production was 50% more than any other wide receiver on that team, period. And I know it was a really anemic offense with Joe Flacco, who was a joke. Thank you for that. But I do think that that Jerry Jeudy's going to step into that number 2 wide receiver role instantly. I know that he played the slot a lot in college, almost the entire time, and he's probably going to have to play on the outside a little bit. But I think that's fine. Yeah, his speed. I was watching some of his highlights today, and I was a little concerned about his speed, but I think his route running makes up for it completely. I think he just beats guys on the line, and then that's how he beats them.
He's a great route runner. He is.
Yeah, probably the best route runner you'll ever see in college.
Yes, I completely agree. And we talked about this a few episodes ago, Justin. I think route running is the most important thing when it comes to being a young wide receiver in the NFL. Having precise,
unless you play for Seattle,
then you're DK Metcalf and you eat the cornerback.
Calvin Ridley's another great example. So I don't know what they're doing down there in Alabama, but I mean, Ridley's measurables, even athletically, weren't great. He was an older rookie coming out, but man, is he a good route runner.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry Jeudy's speed isn't necessarily bad. He ran a 4.45.
No. I don't think
tape
it's bad.
It's not all the way there. Like he slows down a little bit, but I credit that to sometimes his route running. When it comes down to route running for a wide receiver, you break down a lot. You're changing your speed. You're changing directions a lot. It shows up though when he's running just a go route. He's fast.
I'm not saying he's slow. I'm just saying. I guess what I'm trying to say is, whereas Ruggs is speed, right? We're expecting speed from Ruggs. I think Jeudy, the best part of his game is the route running. He doesn't need the speed. The speed is just a bonus, right? He beats his guy off the line or wherever it may be at his cut, and then he's gone. I was watching the draft and really wanted a wide receiver, right? And when I found out, oh God, CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy both fell to Denver, I was so happy that they went with Jeudy. Personally, I know a lot of people think CeeDee Lamb's the best wide receiver in this draft. I don't agree, and
I don't either.
We'll talk about him in just a minute, but. Yeah, so Jerry Jeudy, I think personally is going to have a fantasy impact almost right off the bat. So I will be drafting him fairly high. I think I can, if I start him as my 3rd wide receiver, I would be really happy, to be completely honest with you. But you probably get him as your 4th.
I think a lot of guys too have to be okay with guys being like the wide receiver 2 on their team, and that's good. Like that's a good thing,
especially on that team when they're
And Cortland Sutton was better last year statistically with Emmanuel Sanders in the fold. When it was just him, I mean, his numbers on a per game average actually went down.
And you look at guys, Juju and Antonio Brown when they were together, like they both ate.
And you can, I mean, some obvious examples. You look at guys like Chris Godwin, you look at Michael Gallup last year, you look at Kelvin Ridley, guys that like they're suited to a wide receiver 2 role. And as the league gets more pass happy, those are really good value spots. Like you don't have to get a team's wide receiver 1 to have the best value out of your draft. And it obviously comes down to that is just value. But yeah, you bring up a great point.
The only, and I mean, I think everyone loves, I think every fantasy person here loves Noah Fant at this point.
Mm-hmm.
No? Oh man.
No,
so
here's my
most
thing. Here's my thing when I come to say that. Drew Lock went to the Mizzou. His favorite target when he was at Missouri was Albert Okwuegbunam, who is now the second tight end there, who they drafted in the 4th round. I think he's going to compete for some reps there. Even though they took Noah Fant, that is Drew Lock's guy. They were roommates. They're best friends. He's his guy.
I got you,
Yeah,
but
that's
I've heard
thing.
similar arguments on many
that's
teams about players, but at the end of the day, like I think the talent of Noah Fant is going to be what makes him his new favorite target. They might move in together. They might become roommates. I don't know. All speculation.
Like the target on that offense, and that offense is still going to want to run the ball.
Yeah,
but I get you.
There's so many mouths to feed there.
Yeah, so yeah. I think we Drew Lock is the thing that's the question mark here. I think everyone trusts and likes the talent of every other player on this team at this point, but like we just got to see if Drew Lock can step up this year and improve from where he did last year. I personally believe he will, and think he's going to take that next step forward and make these guys fantasy relevant players. So I'm excited for it.
That's what you want to, like, as a young quarterback. That's got to feel. I think that's got to be a good confidence boost for sure. I mean, when the team openly goes out and surrounds you with talent, I mean, that just sends. I mean, it's a lot of confidence, but like you said, the ball's in his court now. Like he's going to have to produce. It's not going to be, well, we didn't give him enough weapons or whatever. Like he's got to produce now. He's got it all.
Yeah.
I mean, not to keep firing shots at you, Sam, but it's got to be a lot better feeling than if your team just went and drafted a quarterback. So the next player we got, I mean Perry already summed this up. We got Henry Ruggs, and he's fast, so that's him. No, he went to the Raiders. The Raiders love their speedy wide receivers. I think they're looking for. They're trying to keep up with Kansas City's speed. So they went and got a fast wide receiver here. They tried this with Antonio Brown to bring him in. That did not go well for them. So I think Ruggs is going to be their number 1 wide receiver on their team. I don't have as much faith in Carr as I do in Locke to feed this receiver for fantasy purposes, but he will definitely be running down that field. He just might not be catching many balls as he does it.
The one thing I will say about Carr is he does have a nice deep ball. Like he actually does.
He just doesn't throw it.
Yeah,
he doesn't like to
when
throw
he lets
it.
it go. Yeah,
right.
Now he has to. He's got the chance to.
I'll put it this way: I was really happy when the Raiders took Ruggs.
I was not.
I was too.
As a Denver fan.
Perry's a Denver fan.
Oh, okay.
So.
As a Denver fan,
I was like, that is perfect. Thank you, John Gruden, for doing exactly what I expected you to do, which was something bad.
I'll tell you why I was mad. I put money that he wasn't going to be the first wide receiver taken, and it was going to be Jerry Jeudy. I lost $50.
Yeah, I mean, you can't trust Gruden. I mean, don't try and predict what Gruden is going to do.
Yeah, Chucky.
Me and Perry both hate John Gruden.
Yeah, I hate him. Justin, if you were to draft Ruggs, where would you want him as a wide receiver? Wide receiver 3, wide receiver.
I don't want him. I don't want to have to start him. I don't want like it's a player I want on my bench somewhere where I can hopefully he pans out. It's a player I'd take a shot on because I see him as one of those boom or bust players where it's like there's gonna be
He's a great best ball player for
sure. Absolutely. Like he's a player where there's going to be a week he has 2 touchdowns or maybe even 3 touchdowns and a ton of yards. And there's going to be weeks where, he just completely vanishes on you and you don't see him.
Okay, I know we joke around about him and say just run a go route, just run. He's a better receiver than John Ross. He's not just John Ross. He has better hands. He has a route tree. While it's not as refined as, say, a Jerry Jeudy or even CeeDee Lamb, he's not terrible. He's decent.
No,
I will agree with that.
My problem isn't as much with him. I think he's he's not the best wide receiver in the class. He's a good wide receiver. It's just this offense I don't like.
Right. I mean, that's fair.
Imagine
his strength is his quarterback's weakness.
Yeah.
Imagine how excited we would have been about this Raiders pick if it was CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Jeudy would have been a lot better.
But I think CeeDee Lamb would have been even better than
Ruggs.
Than Ruggs as well.
Yeah.
I'm more excited for Bryan Edwards than I am for Henry Ruggs.
I completely agree. Like, I'm not going to disagree with you. Bryan Edwards is a more complete receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well,
after that 5-minute rant on Henry Ruggs,
I told you Perry summed it up. He's fast. We could have stopped right there.
Yeah. An interesting landing spot for CeeDee Lamb. We're talking about him possibly being debated for the number 1 wide receiver in this draft. There's a chance he ends up being the number 3 wide receiver on his own team now. It's a stacked wide receiver room. Dak Prescott throws the ball a lot. He was, I believe, 2nd in the league in passing yards last year, just behind Jameis Winston.
Just behind.
The key thing that I would factor in is for this year, CeeDee Lamb is going to struggle. Moving forward, if this is Dynasty, for example, Amari Cooper can be cut next year. He has no guaranteed money in his contract next year. He can be cut or traded. I don't know who would want that $20 million a season after that. So probably cut. So moving forward in Dynasty, this is a guy who has this ceiling. CeeDee Lamb is wearing the number 88, which is glorified in Dallas culture. But this year he may struggle when it comes to redraft.
Yeah, the one thing Lamb has going for him is all the vacated targets that are in Dallas. I think they're like one of the top couple of teams in vacated targets, like over 160 just between 2 guys leaving from last year in Witten and Cobb. So, I mean, even giving him 40 of those, 50 of those, and it remains to be seen how well integrated the rookies can be this offseason with everything going on. I think a lot of the incumbent players will have the edge, I think more so than they normally would, especially at the wide receiver position for how long compared to running backs they tend to take to develop. But like you said, he's got like wide receiver 1 upside for the Cowboys. I mean, I think it's only $6 million in dead cap that the Cowboys would have letting Cooper go after this year. Gallup's a free agent after this next year as well. I mean, I would assume they keep one, if not both, but who knows?
Gallup. It would be Michael Gallup. Amari Cooper is going to want more money.
I would say, though, with those vacated targets, I don't expect them to have that many vacated targets due to the fact I think there will be less targets thrown with some regression from Dak this year, just because I don't expect him to throw it as much as he did last year.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting, though. I mean, even as a Packer fan, getting to see Mike McCarthy go down to Dallas, I'm excited for McCarthy, as a coach, that he gets a chance in the league. I liked him for a long time up in Green Bay. I felt that he had run his course, obviously, and I'm glad that he's gone. But, I mean, for a while, I'm interested to see now with the second year of Kellen Moore's offensive coordinator. I think he's really unlocked that offense to do a lot more. But, yeah, I mean, Lamb's going to be fun to watch at Dynasty, and this is going to be the cheapest you're ever going to get him is going to be this year. So if people are worried about him being the wide receiver 3, buy that discount every time.
Yeah, Dynasty. I really like CeeDee Lamb Dynasty.
Yeah.
This year, I think we've pretty much hit the nail on the head.
And I mean, one thing to note when it comes to Mike McCarthy, he loves receivers. Like, he loves them. When he won that Super Bowl, he probably had one of, if not the best wide receiver core of all time. When it came to James Jones, Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, Randall Cobb, they were all there. That's a top 5 of guys who all became wide receiver 2s, if not a wide receiver 1 at some point in their career.
So, that was fun.
Sorry to take you down memory lane.
I will say that there was a recent quote that came out from Mike McCarthy that said that he thinks that they're going to have to beat people with their offense.
I heard that.
Which that might be a good thing for CeeDee Lamb this season. But I think if we're just trying to stay in like a healthy headspace, I would expect that this season might be kind of anemic, especially early on.
Right. Yep, I agree. All right, looking at who do I have next? T. Higgins. I really like T. Higgins. I was disappointed that he didn't test at the combine, and his reasoning was needed a little bit more time to recover from the long season. I don't know. I get it, but it still would have been nice for him to show up and do something. He performed well at his pro day. His numbers would not have stacked up very well compared to a lot of the receivers that tested at the combine. He was the first receiver. There's the first guy taken, I think, in the second round, top of the second round of the Bengals. I like the landing spot. I really do. I'm not overly optimistic that Joe Burrow can support several fantasy relevant options in his rookie year. I mean, rookie quarterbacks generally don't unless they offer like some sort of rushing upside statistically. So he's going to have his rookie struggles anyways as that offense kind of gets itself back together. AJ Green is not long for retirement or just not long for not being in football anymore. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't play much, if at all, this year, because we really haven't heard much from his camp. I mean, even last year it was, yeah, he's going to be ready to play, and that was like an every week thing. And Tyler Boyd's still there. He's been very productive. I like what he's doing there, but I think the pairing with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati is going to be really exciting. Cincinnati's already said they want him to kind of start early. They want him to see the field right away. He's got great ball possession skills. But yeah, I'm optimistic for Higgins long term, especially from a dynasty perspective. Kind of been where he's falling. He fell to 205 in the mock draft over at RotoViz. He was the 8th wide receiver taken, so kind of right in the middle of that second round. I think there's still a lot of value there. I've seen him go as early as early second round and back second round, but I think he's in a good spot.
I think similar to CeeDee Lamb next season, 2021. I'm a lot more excited for Higgins because like you said, I don't think AJ Green will be there next season. I don't think AJ Green should have been there this season, to be completely honest with you. But
right,
yeah.
One thing to note when it comes to T. Higgins, I'm right. AJ Green is his idol. When he was growing up, he always said AJ Green's my favorite player, and he actually was a Bengals fan. So him being in the same room as AJ Green said it's going to motivate him to be better than what AJ Green ever was. He said he wants to be him and even more. And I'm going to agree with you, Sam, when it comes to T. Higgins. I would have loved to see him run, not even just run, just participate in the combine. Had he done that, I think he would have been a first-round pick because he does nothing exceptionally well, but he does nothing bad.
He does a lot of things.
Everything good, but nothing great and nothing bad. And you can just see it. His on the field is a lot better than what you just see from testing.
Yeah, he's a very complete wide receiver. I think he's one of the more complete wide receivers when you look at everything that he can do. Like you said, he's not just the speed guy. He's not the best route runner. He's not going to, test at the top in every measurable at the combine, but he just does a lot of things very, very well. And I think he's paired with a great young quarterback. So just that pairing by itself, I think, is reason enough to provide some optimism moving forward. And I'm not convinced that Boyd can be a wide receiver one. I think he's more suited to a complementary role. So if Higgins can take over that AJ Green type role on the field, I think that's a great spot for him.
Yeah, I always love when you get the receiver and quarterback that come out of college together. Like, I feel like they grow together and build that trust with each other.
AJ Green, Andy Dalton, anybody?
Yeah.
That happened the same year?
Yeah.
And I'm done with both of them.
They burned you?
Yes, very badly. Not so much Andy Dalton, but the Bengals are done with him. So, so I got Rieger, or is it Rieger or Rager? I mess up names
Rieger.
all the time. So
it's Jalen Rieger.
Okay, Rieger. So the Eagles took Rieger. He was in the first round. I mean, they were desperate at wide receiver last year. They had wide receivers dropping, and they were signing every old wide receiver they could to try and fill these gaps, who just then got injured as well. So they were desperate here. He comes in with a great opportunity because of that. Also with Carson Wentz, who is a younger quarterback, not super at the end of his career, hopefully. He keeps getting injured, so I don't want to hold me to that.
Knock on wood.
But I think he's got a great opportunity. Alshon Jeffrey's there as their dominant wide receiver, but he's also getting up there in age. He hasn't finished a season in a little while now. So he has a good chance of being their number one wide receiver by the end of this year, just by situation. So I think for fantasy, he could actually have some hidden value here. That I might take a shot on a guy like him a little bit late. Like, he's not going to be an instant day one where he's putting out fantasy points for you like some of these earlier guys. But I really like him.
He could.
Yeah,
Without,
yeah.
He has a
without that
chance.
receiver
He's
core,
fast too, so that's
mean,
his
yeah,
other thing.
he's
Like
fat.
they
He
love
didn't-
that field stretcher.
Was it him that ran the 4.47 at the combine, or was it the
Yes.
kid from Penn State?
No,
I
that
always
was
get those
him.
two mixed up.
That was
That was
Rieger.
him.
Yeah.
Look, he's quicker than he is fast. When he's on the field, he's quick, and not to mention everybody looks at his stat line. Whoa, first round pick. He had 600 yards and like 6 touchdowns this past year. He had the worst quarterback ever when it comes to college football.
Absolutely. But his problem was dropping the ball and fumbles.
Here's the thing. Fumbling, I'll give it to you, but he had the lowest percentage out of any draft eligible receiver in this draft when it came to completable passes that were thrown his way.
Yeah.
42% of his passes were considered completable.
I know.
Only
I have
42.
it right here.
And I believe that amounted to somewhere between, I think it was 12 drops on this past season, which is not good at all.
Yes.
But terrible quarterback play, and he brought in some
those
catches
12
that
drops
not
come from doesn't come out of those ones that you couldn't have completed. It comes out of
couple of them were.
completable.
I've seen some of them that were considered his drops that should not have been.
But
I would say about roughly
the
half of
season
them.
before that, he was fantastic, so he didn't have that issue. So I mean, obviously the quarterback play was part of it, but the fumbling, the quarterback had nothing to do with that. That's on him.
That's true.
But that's the only thing that limits him for me is and then they also brought in Godwin from the 49ers, who is a one-trick pony, really. He's that field stretcher.
Run.
Yeah. Or Goodwin, sorry. He's just sprinting down the field. I forgot. I left an O out.
I honestly, if we're talking about guys that I want to start right now in fantasy and get production out of, he's actually number 3.
Wow.
Of who we've talked about. So
I like this next guy more.
the next guy's number 2.
Okay.
Jerry Judy's number 1. Next guy, yeah, we'll talk about in a second. And then actually Rieger was number 3 for me because I think they need him. Like it's not like a CeeDee Lamb situation where it's like, we don't really need you to be super productive this season. They need him to be productive.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Ruggs will be more productive than him in my opinion, but for year 1, but I think I'd rather have Rieger in Dynasty.
Yeah, I just think Carson Wentz is so much better than Derek Carr. But.
Oh yeah, miles
yeah,
ahead.
I'm just hoping. But who was the other quarterback they drafted?
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how he is, because by the end of the season, he'll be the one throwing him the ball.
Oh, come on, man. Okay,
Carson Wentz is out of there week 14.
Carson Wentz isn't necessarily injury prone. All of his injuries are just different. They're all different areas of his body.
But they always happen.
They always
He's
happen.
scared of the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's like, get me out of here, man. Somebody else can go win that Super
Take
Bowl.
that pressure off me.
Maybe.
All right.
Davion Clowney was scared of losing.
Yeah, Cam Newton was afraid of the Super Bowl too.
Well, you can thank Von Miller for that. Anyways, so next guy we're going to talk about is Justin Jefferson, who we've already kind of alluded to. I think we're all fairly excited about his landing spot. I said this right after the draft. I think this really good. Stephon Diggs left, and so then they replaced him with Stephon Diggs. Is kind of how I've thought of it, right? They're
for quite a bit cheaper.
Yeah, they're like, you're unhappy here? That's okay. We'll go get another one of you. Not that Stephon Diggs is easily replaced. I think they kind of lucked into this one a little bit, but I think 100 targets is well within the possibilities right now for Justin Jefferson in 2020. Adam Thielen is going to be drawing double coverage. We know that. A lot of people are saying that if Adam Thielen goes down, Justin Jefferson will be really good. I don't know if I agree with that so much. Not yet. Maybe if this was his second year or third year. But as long as Adam Thielen's on the field, he's going to draw all the coverage, right? And Justin Jefferson is going to have basically man-on-man coverage most of the season. So he's number 2 for me on who I would like to start out of these rookie wide receivers right now, day 1.
Yeah, if you told me at the end of this year which rookie wide receiver had the most points this year, and you told me it was Justin Jefferson, I would not be shocked. I think he's in a great spot to produce year 1. I don't know if he would be my top pick for a dynasty wide receiver compared to some of these other guys. But yeah, I think he's in a fantastic spot to produce, especially in PPR leagues right away.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson did tell you that. He said that yesterday that he was going to be the number 1 wide receiver. So
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, another thing to add with Justin Jefferson is when it comes to the Vikings, they're going to be playing against stacked boxes a lot. A lot of teams are going to be preparing for Dalvin Cook, and knowing that Adam Thielen isn't necessarily the best field stretcher, they can play single high, and Justin Jefferson can take advantage of that. One thing to note: Justin Jefferson this past season only played 3 snaps, not lined up in the slot. Only 3.
That is something to know because he's going to be playing on the outside.
He's going to be forced to, but I think again he's going to be primarily a slot receiver. Stephon Diggs played a lot in the slot, and I could see him just again, like you said, being that exact replica and just plugging in that same position.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we got 4 more to go here, guys.
This next one I hit J Love with just because I know he's a Cardinals fan.
yeah, you had to do it to me. And that's why I'm gonna knock him all the way. No, I'm playing. Brandon Ayuk, he's in a sense Deebo Samuel again.
Mm-hmm.
A guy he's great after the catch. If you want to, of course, CeeDee Lamb is the best at that in this draft. He's one of the best ever when it comes to rack. But next in line, here you go, Brandon Ayuk. Literally, he's not going to wow you with his speed. He's a good athlete, not a great athlete. Not the best route runner. He's a decent athlete, decent receiver, but he's just going to be that gadget player, and he's just going to plug in and literally just be another Deebo Samuel for the 49ers.
Yeah, his run after the catch is awesome.
He's in a great spot. Like, I would not have liked Ayuk as much as I do had he gone anywhere else, but I trust the Niners.
Green Bay? Had he went to Green Bay?
Probably not, because
not as much with the Niners, I don't think, because they're all about those short passes and those they scheme players open to where he can use his run after the catch ability. Jimmy G is not throwing the ball 40 yards down the field to a player.
He has one of the lowest average depths of targets of any quarterback. And
Yeah,
how that system, and that's fine. I mean, it works for them. He doesn't have to be a gunslinging quarterback. So when you get a guy that fits the way they want their offense to run, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do so much misdirection and stuff like that behind the line of scrimmage and then crossing routes, and they have a fullback that can run out and draw coverages even. Like, it's crazy. So he's going to end up finding himself open in the middle of the field quite often.
That's a great blend of being a good football move for the Niners and not a bad fantasy move either. I mean, that's what they want to do, and he'll provide some deep sleeper appeal for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. He's not a player that I'm like, ooh, I'm excited that I landed this player. He's going to win me my league, but it's a player that if I get him later in the draft, I'm happy about it.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, the next guy, I'll try and speed up a little bit here. We got a couple guys left to talk about. This one's Denzel Mims. I was a little bit surprised he fell back as far as he did in the draft. But
DK Metcalf.
Yeah, he went to
same issue.
He went to the Jets, which, I mean, for the Jets, they need wide receivers. They gave away their only wide receiver, brought in. They're a team full of number 3 wide receivers this year. Not even number 2. So, I mean, you could, to me, I feel like you could take a shot on Mims because he could be their number 1 wide receiver, but so could Crowder. I feel like this is just taking a shot on a guy at this point, though, because he's a big target there with a team that the quarterback play didn't impress me. I don't like their coach. I'm just not super happy about the team, but maybe he can be fantasy relevant.
He tested really well. That's one thing he has going for him. I mean, he tested exceptionally well at the combine, so that really helped him, I think.
I mean, point blank period. Adam Gase. Is there anything else we need to say?
Yeah, that's my biggest problem.
That's the issue when it comes to this team. I mean, yeah, like you said, wide receiver 3s, and then you have Denzel Mims, and then Sam Darnold, who always turns the ball over. Not a recipe for success.
I'm really excited for 2021 when Adam Gase doesn't have a job. Finally.
Thank you.
Finally.
Or he's a Super Bowl champion.
I don't know if I have the power, but you're fired. Get out.
Oh man.
All right, Sam, on to you, man.
Yeah, looking down at Pittman here, he was the second pick of the second round right after T. Higgins, actually. So I was kind of excited to land these 2 guys to dive into him a little bit more. I think he's in a really good spot too. I like what this offense has going on. I think the Colts are one of the most competently run organizations, head coach, front office, veteran quarterback under center, fantastic offensive line. I mean, they're doing a lot of really good things there. It wouldn't surprise me to kind of see them make a surprise playoff push. I think they can do some damage because they have the offensive pieces to do it. And the Colts have already come out and said that they want him to play the X receiver role outside, and he's got the body for it. He's 6'4", 223. He's quick. He tested, what did I have, 93rd percentile in speed, 89th percentile in catch radius. I mean, he's a big guy. So you line him up outside, have him go one-on-one, playing opposite of T.Y. Hilton, who hasn't been super healthy the last couple of years. He's getting a little bit older. He's already kind of come out the last couple of days and said, whatever contract, if whatever he signs with the Colts, he wants to retire as a Colt. Paris Campbell coming back should probably be the wide receiver 3, but he's got to stay healthy as well. He's got a lot of catching up to do. I just think he's in a good spot. I think he's someone that you can get kind of mid to back half of the second round of your rookie draft, depending on if it's super flex or not. And I think that's a lot of these guys we've talked about here the last few minutes, whether it's, Jefferson or Ayuk or Mims. Jefferson's more going kind of late first, early second. But when you get to this point of the draft, it's, you're going to get a guy that's going to fall. And a lot of mock drafts that I've done, a lot of drafts I've seen done already, every time I walk away thinking, man, that guy fell really far. But then I look and just go, it happens at every draft. You're going to have a guy that kind of surprises you how far he fell just because how talented this class is. But he's got a chance to start right away and to be the wide receiver 2 in what I think is going to be a good offense that can run the ball well, that is going to have a better passer under center than they did last year.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Pittman had a better season than Ruggs. Like, to be completely honest with you, I think I would rather have Pittman just because of where I can get him than Ruggs. Yeah, and I honestly believe that he might outperform Ruggs fantasy-wise.
Yeah, my only fear with Pittman in a dynasty is who's the quarterback next year. I have faith that they'll they'll get a good quarterback there to take the reins. But currently, it's like, man, how many more years does Rivers have in him?
None.
Get into those where if you're in a dynasty draft, you bring up a really good point, Justin, of, okay, you're staring at you're on the clock at 2:05 and you have T. Higgins and Pittman. Do you go with a guy who is tied to a young first-round quarterback or a guy who's probably on a better offense this year, maybe next year? Like, if you said that Pittman outscores Higgins over the next 2 years, that wouldn't shock me, in whatever format you want to go for. But when you're looking long-term, depending on the makeup of your roster, Higgins is probably the better play long-term.
Yeah, and I know that's something I've looked at in a draft I did recently, and I actually ended up going with Pittman in the situation.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but
very consider when you think about, do you have a quarterback who's 20 years older throwing the same guy the ball?
Yeah, and like I said, I have faith in that organization to bring in someone.
I do too. They're very well run.
Yeah. Okay, last guy on the list here is Chase Claypool. Lot of talk going into the NFL draft that Chase Claypool might be playing tight end in the NFL. He's not going to. Well, according to Pittsburgh, he will not be playing tight end. He will be playing wide receiver. They have him as like the third wide receiver. Honestly, I think the landing spot isn't great for Chase Claypool just because they have so many wide receivers there that if he doesn't make a splash immediately, he could just fall back into that stable of wide receivers and just be one of these guys that, hey, gets like a 40-yard touchdown one week and all of a sudden people are excited and then he doesn't do anything for 4 weeks. Yeah. So if he can solidify his spot as that third wide receiver by being productive early on in the season, then I think that we could see some fantasy value out of a team that we expect to throw the ball a lot if it's any indication of how Ben Roethlisberger has played his whole career. But with the elbow injury coming back, I think there's a lot of question marks here. I don't know. I don't know if there's enough production out of Ben Roethlisberger with the elbow to feed 3 wide receivers. I don't even know if I want the second wide receiver in Pittsburgh, to be completely honest with you. So
yeah,
it's another situation. Go ahead, Justin.
Oh, sorry. They are talking about moving Juju back to the slot as well. Which I think helps Juju. You put those
great for Juju. Yeah.
Puts those receivers on the outside, so he'll probably be playing on the outside. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. Like it's so crazy to think like 2 years ago, Pittsburgh was like just breeding these elite wide receivers, and now we're like, do you want Pittsburgh's number 2 wide receiver? But yeah, he's a guy where I like him, but his landing spot's not great, and I don't think I'm gonna grab him in most drafts.
Yeah, that offense is in a weird spot because I don't really know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, last year they just kind of rotated quarterbacks and still were. I mean, credit to Mike Tomlin. I mean, I think he should have been kind of a low-key candidate for Coach of the Year with what he did with what he had. But he's in another situation. Claypool is where you say, okay, he's tied to an old quarterback, and Pittsburgh kind of has this narrative, like you said, Justin, of well, they kind of keep breeding these elite wide receivers, and they know how to draft them and develop them, and they're fantasy assets, and that's great. But like you said, I mean, outside of Juju, I like Deontay Johnson. I think he's a great player. I was more excited for James Washington, kind of, back to J-Love's comment of, well, he played with Mason Rudolph in college. It's going to be great. Like, they were going to play and do awesome things together, and Mason Rudolph's not an NFL quarterback. Like, he's just not.
Yeah.
He's an NFL ragdoll.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Man, that's
too
hard to
punching
watch.
bag. Yeah.
Too soon? Sorry, my bad.
Anyways, we're like, 2 years from now, I think that whole Pittsburgh organization is going to look a lot different, especially if Roethlisberger hangs it up here in the next couple of years, which he probably should.
Yeah,
I think he will. I think this is his last year.
The breeding of elite wide receivers has been tied to Ben Roethlisberger being there, right? And that's going to stop here at some point soon. We all know that's going to end at some point.
I think it has.
Yeah, it may have. It may have.
When it did stop last year.
I mean, Perry, to go off of what you were saying, my biggest issue with Chase Claypool is that I think he is a tight end. He's not going to play it for Pittsburgh, but I truly believe that with his size, I don't care that he ran a 4.45 at the combine. That's not on tape. You watch him play, he looks like he runs a 4.7. He does not play fast at all. His route running is not precise. His best ability is going up and high pointing a ball in the corner of the end zone. What is the main job of a tight end? Doing that exactly. He's a decent blocker, and I think with his 250-pound frame at 6'5", he's a tight end. That's what he is. And seeing that, I don't think he's going to project well as a wide receiver, as I've already said. Having Eric Ebron, who they just paid, and they still have Vance McDonald on the roster, I think he's just going to get pushed back in that roster, whether it's wide receiver, him not being productive, or tight end and not playing.
Don't hate on 4.7 speed. That's my man Cephas from Wisconsin. That's some 4.7 speed.
Hey, I've heard Quintez Cephas is low key a really good receiver. Like if
buy him in every fourth round.
One thing I always pay attention to when I'm scouting is players every year when they're always asked at the combine, who's the toughest player you faced? One quiet person this year, Quintez Cephas from Jeff Okudah. Last year we heard Max Sharping was the toughest player most edge rushers placed, and he played great last year.
Yeah,
right on.
I agree with you. It's not a player I'm going for. But yeah, so that sums up the 10 running backs, 10 wide receivers we were planning to talk about. So I appreciate you guys joining us. I want to give you guys a chance again, let everyone know where they can find you. J-Love. Yeah,
Rumboys J-Love on Twitter. I'm over there, and then rumboys.com with all my articles with all my guys. I'm the chief editor there. Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, S Wallace _FF, and you can find all of my stuff over at RotoViz.
Awesome. Thanks for joining,
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you guys. Appreciate you coming on.